Hi, hello, good morning. The reason I'm doing this video today is because I think it's really important that people are aware as to how many changes there have been recently with the NHS. Now, as you know, I've been doing a lot of videos recently about the NHS and how fantastic George Eliot Hospital have been with myself, especially over the last couple of weeks, because I seem to have been in A&E like every week just lately. And yes, I happened to be in A&E again yesterday. Oh, it was so weird. It was such a weird day yesterday for me. I've had this cough now for a week. And the main reason, obviously, I went into hospital a week ago was because I was worried that I may have on early stages of septicemia. Because apart from obviously my leg infections, which aren't healing, and I seem to be getting, I think they might be mosquito bites from last night. I've just found a mosquito in the house, and it is only the female that bites, not the male. I said to them at the hospital last week, I said, look, just check my baselines of my blood work. I'm not really worried about my cough, providing you can assure me it's not something serious. I'm happy to accept that 21 days for me to have a cough for me is normal. But they gave me antibiotics anyway, which I was a little bit confused about. I didn't understand why they gave them me. Because if they didn't think that I had a bacterial infection in my body, antibiotics won't work. That is what I have always been led to believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a doctor. So I took the antibiotics. It was quite an intense course. It was 4 a day for a week, for 5 days. And I took them. And then Tuesday of this week, my breathing and my cough had got worse, to the point where it had become very kind of mucusy but white. So I thought to myself, oh, I'm okay, it's just clear mucus. I haven't got to worry. Then, in the early hours of yesterday morning, not this morning, yesterday, which would have been Wednesday, I literally, at like 4 a.m, I could not breathe. It felt as if somebody was strangling me in my sleep. My airways had closed up. I couldn't even get out of, out of bed. I literally was so wheezy, and my breathing was so tight and so laboured that I phoned 111, and they said to me, go to A&E. Don't mess about, go to A&E. And I said to them, look, I'm going to be straight with you. If they're not going to think that I need a chest x-ray, or they're not going to do any blood work, what's the point? Because, all I'm going to do is waste NHS time. And they were like, look, it's your decision. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to wait. So I waited until 8 o'clock yesterday. And then I phoned my GP surgery. And I will admit, with my GP surgery, it's a bit hit and miss trying to get through the receptionists. Sometimes they're lovely women, and sometimes they can come across as being quite, unprofessional, shall we say. And so I rang up yesterday and I said, look, I appreciate the fact that I need to be triaged. You've got this new system in place where, I don't just ring you and tell you what's wrong over the phone, and then you make an appointment for me to have a call back, or an appointment for me to come in and see my GP. So they triaged me, and then an hour later I got a text message, which was really weird. I'd never had one of those before, telling me that all I needed to do was go to the pharmacist. So I rang up and I was like, why have I got to go to the pharmacist? And they were like, we don't know, we're not doctors. What did it say on the text? And I said, well, it just said from triage that I need to go to the pharmacist. I said, but why am I being sent to the pharmacist for a chest infection, which I've already had a course of antibiotics for, that may have become worse over the last week? surely I need to come and see my GP. And then if he feels that I need to go on any other treatment or medication, or to go to hospital to have like a chest x-ray or anything, he'll make the decision. And they said, no, that doesn't work like that anymore. And I was like, I don't understand. What do you mean it doesn't work like that anymore? Why am I being refused medical treatment? And they were like, you're not being refused medical treatment. That's what the pharmacist is for chest and cough, chest, if you have a cough or a sore throat. And I said to them, yes, that is if it hasn't manifested into something more severe. I said, I'm not stupid. I said, I've already been taking cough medicine for over a week, okay? It's got worse. I can't breathe. I'm potentially coughing up blood, because that's what it looked like. In the early hours of the morning, it had like a pink tinge to it. And they went, no, you need to go and see the pharmacist. Went to see the pharmacist, lovely woman. And she took one look at me and she went, weren't you here last week? And I said, yes. She goes, did you go to hospital? And I went, yes, I did. What did they do? And I explained to her, they gave me antibiotics. They said it wasn't sepsis. And she was like, good, I'm so glad that you went. And she said, but why are you here now? And I showed her the text message on my phone. And she just looked at me and she said, what's that? I've never had to do anything like that before. And I was like, really? Well, according to my doctor's receptionist, you know all about this. They got quite abusive. I said, I will admit I was quite rude on the phone to them, because I said, well, let's just hope that I don't have to phone for an ambulance walking from my house to the pharmacist. I said, because I've never heard of anyone being able to get a prescription of antibiotics from their pharmacist without seeing a doctor first. So she took me into the side room and she checked my ops for me as best she could. So she checked my pulse, my blood pressure, my temperature, and I think it was my heart rate or something. When they put the little plastic thing on your finger. And she did both arms for my blood pressure, which they've done before, which isn't uncommon, to get like a baseline. And she said, look, I'm going to be straight with you. I cannot help you. Why has your doctor's surgery sent you here? You need to go back to see your GP. And I said, well, what do I do now? Because they're refusing. She said, okay. So she painstakingly filled out this online form for me. And then when she went to press send, it came up with system server error on the computer. And she just looked at me and I looked at her and I went, oh my gosh, technology. What are we supposed to do with it today? And she says, I am so sorry. And I went, don't apologise. You've not done anything wrong. It's a computer glitch. And then, bless her, she filled it all in again for me. And then she said, look, if they've not rung you in half an hour, ring them back. So I went and dropped my children off at their dad's. Because, again, I can't be taking my kids into hospital with me. And I got to their dad's and I said, look, I am severely, pissed off at the moment. I am mentally and physically exhausted. I am stressed out. My mental health is going through the roof. I said, all I want is a straight answer. You know, I mean, told one thing by one person, one thing by somebody else. There's such a conflict of information. I got told by my doctor that if my bloods weren't where they should be with their baseline, that I had an infection and that I needed it sorting out, and that if the hospital staff weren't sure what I meant by that they could just ring him. But they've never done that. They've never just phoned up my doctors and said, look, we've got this woman here, patient. I think she's a little bit confused. She's worried about her bloods. Could you just explain to us what we should be looking for and if we can send her home? And I said to them, so I went in and they were like, hello. And I was, joking with the staff in A&E, and I was saying, I'm so sorry that I have to come back here. And they're like, it's not your fault. Don't worry about it. Take a seat. And I finally got seen. within 5 hours. So when people are saying, oh, it's, it was brilliant, again, I was only there 5 hours. I wasn't there 8 hours. I was only there 5. And I was joking with them and I said, oh, should I have come in at 4? And they were like, no. We were so short-staffed at 4 o'clock. You probably would still be here now. So by the time I got into hospital, due to all the messing around, sorry, it was midday. And so I sat there and I was home by 5 o'clock. So, I was really, really happy. But I wasn't happy because I went in and the lady who triaged me, the nurse who triaged me, she had seen me the week before. So she knew who I was and she said, yeah, I know why you're here. And I was like, okay, thank you so much. I said, I can only apologise. She said, did you try and get into your GP? And I said, yeah. And I basically got stonewalled. And she was like, yeah, I'm really sorry to hear that. We're hearing that a lot lately. And I said, yes, but my GP, I know for a fact, not my opinion, I believe that if my GP had known that it was me that had contacted them, he would have seen me. He would have said, no, I need to see this person because of their medical history. So I went to the hospital. They did my bloods. They were convinced that there was nothing wrong. And I said, well, of course my bloods are going to appear to be more levelled out than they were last week or 2 weeks ago. You've just put me on a course of antibiotics for a week. That doesn't mean that I'm not ill or that I don't have an infection. So they checked my chest. They sent me home with another course of antibiotics. And it's a different type this time. And I questioned them and I said, why are you giving me antibiotics again? It's a viral infection. You can't take antibiotics for viruses, surely. And they said, we're giving you them as a precaution in case your cough, like the symptoms of your cough change again. And I'm like, really? Why? And I'm like really, really skeptical about this because, at one point they would give you antibiotics like they were Smarties. Then they stopped giving you antibiotics because people were getting resistant to them. And the only few negative things that I had to deal with at the hospital were, oh, there's probably nothing wrong with you. There's a 100-day cough going around. And I'm like, well, when somebody's airways are closing up and they literally cannot breathe, are you expecting them to wait 100 days to come and see you? They told me that I couldn't have had sepsis because if I'd had septicemia, I'd be dead by now. Which is a valid point, but my sister had sepsis after having a C-section. And it took them 12 hours to realise that she had septicemia. So she was really lucky that she didn't die. But she was already in hospital and they just pumped her full of medication intravenously. And then when she had her second child, to my knowledge, the same thing happened again. So sepsis is serious. It is time critical. And I've just been really lucky that I don't have it or I've not had it. But the fact that I have an infection that isn't going away on my legs, and nobody can really tell me what it is or why it's taking me so long to heal, isn't helping. The fact that I've had, all of a sudden had a chest infection, or I thought it was just upper respiratory tract infection now for over a week. They've put me on antibiotics, they've not worked, they've now put me on another course, as a precaution, so to speak. I mean, yesterday I was really, really skeptical, but this morning I woke up and the mucus that I am now coughing up is green. And that sounds disgusting, but it's gone from being a clear white phlegm to being a frothy white phlegm with a pinkish tinge to now being green. So even over the course of a week, my cough has changed. And again, what the hospital said to me was, you're okay, we don't need to x-ray you. But if you're not better in a week after taking antibiotics, you need to go and see your doctor. And I jokingly said to them, okay, thank you for your time, I appreciate it. So I'll see you in a week then. And they were like, please try and get into your GP. And I'm like, yeah, I will try and get into my GP. But the problem is, I'm not getting in. And people are still having that problem. I mean, a few weeks back, it was about a week ago, Friday last week, I got into my doctor's. And he was absolutely amazing. But it's the getting in that's the problem. Once you get in, you're fine. But it's the getting in that is causing the strain on, the hospitals. So, fingers crossed, they've given me the right antibiotics now, and I will be okay next week. But I just think to myself, why didn't they just give me those antibiotics to begin with? Why did they give me some others? So, again, I don't understand, what's going on. At the moment, it just feels like I'm a human guinea pig all over again. And with my bloods, I really need a second opinion. Or if they're not going to give me a second opinion, there's somebody physically needs to sit down with me and say, look, this is what's wrong. This is what we're trying to explain to you. And I know my doctor did try and do that to me last week. But even then, it got lost in translation. But that's not his fault. I'm not medically trained. And when you're trying to explain something to someone with a degree in medicine, I know that they can get quite offended if you seem to be doing their job for them. It's a bit touch and go sometimes when that happens. But, I know my own body, and I keep saying to them, if this had just been a cough, I would have waited it out for 20 days or 21 days. But this isn't just a cough. This is me physically not being able to catch my breath every time. I mean, I'm okay when I'm talking to a degree, but when I try and lie down or sit or just, do something with my kids, I literally feel like I'm going to pass out and fall on the floor. And that is not normal for me to feel that fatigued and that exhausted. I do suffer with fatigue, but not to the point where it becomes a breathing issue. So, like I said, find out how your doctors are now running their procedure of admitting patients. Mine have changed theirs, and I'll tell you what, it's really hard to get to grips with what's actually been going on. And I just feel like, they be to me a little bit more patient. And I am sorry that I got rude with her, but at the same time, even after I got someone else to ring up on my behalf, and they got told she needs to go to hospital. And then I remember I was in the room at the time, and my friend said, okay, thank you for your time, I'll let her know. Bye for now. And the way she said goodbye, she didn't even say goodbye on the phone, she went, bye, on the phone, was done in such a rude and sarcastic way. And that is, and I know from past experience that this is what they're like. Sometimes I cannot fault the receptionist at my surgery, and then other times I've seen how they talk to patients, and I've even been in the surgery when, after putting the phone down about a patient, they're sitting there having a conversation, discussing patient's confidential medical history. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute, you're not supposed to be doing that. So, yeah, so this week, unfortunately, and at hospital, George Eliot, I can't fault them. I'm a little bit sceptical that they shouldn't have just let me go. but I'm alive. And I didn't want to be in hospital over the weekend. Unnecessary. But unfortunately, with the receptionist at my surgery this week, I haven't been too impressed. So, like I said, if in doubt, go to A&E. They're so used to people just turning up now. And if you just say, look, I'm really sorry, I couldn't get into my doctors, they're like, yeah, okay, we understand. But like I keep saying to them, it's not fair on you guys. You know, when I phoned up at 8 o'clock this morning to see my GP, I should have been given an appointment. I should not have been turning up on your doorstep at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, because that's how long it took for somebody to get back to me. So anyway, take care, enjoy your weekend, and fingers crossed I will be better by next week. Thank you.